It's always going to be easy to tell yourself, I should be doing this. I should be able to do this. Those are always easy expectations to put on yourself, but they're not always the healthiest. When you're healthy, they're not always the best. So when you're depressed, adding undue, unrealistic expectations to yourself is only going to make the depression worse, and it's going to set you back, and it's really going to erode at your creativity. Hello friend, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm really excited to chat with you. I am getting pretty vulnerable about my personal struggle with depression, specifically as a creative, and how do you stay creative when you're depressed. About 2 months ago, I woke up and I was hit with such a severe wave of depression in a way that I hadn't felt in so many years that it scared me. It really scared me. I hadn't felt that intense of darkness and dark thoughts and just really not wanting to get out of bed and crying all day in a while. I was really bummed because this entire year I have been doing way more in pursuing my creative passions than ever before, and I felt stopped. I felt like I had slammed into a brick wall. And when you hit those moments of depression, if you've ever experienced that, or if you are experiencing that now, you know how difficult it can be to have motivation to even get out of bed. So how do you even get motivation to work on creative projects? I was really discouraged because I didn't want to give up on everything that I had worked on. And I also didn't want to fall so far behind that I felt like I wasn't doing anything of purpose. I was really nervous that I was just going to give up on all the projects that I had started working on, or fall so far behind that I would be so discouraged that I wouldn't pick them up again. Here's the thing about depression, or at least for me. When I am depressed or in a specific depressive wave, I know that creating art and being in my creative process is going to intrinsically help me heal quicker and move out of that wave in a healthy way, but also quicker than wallowing. But when you are depressed, when you are struggling with depression and anxiety, sometimes that's the thing that is stopping you from doing the thing that you need to get healthy. So this time around, I just felt like I tried some new things. I took some of the lessons that I've learned in the past with struggling with depression, and I just applied them, and I found that they worked. And I found that I was able to continue to create, to continue to pursue my art, even though I was struggling with a severe wave of depression. I want to share those things with you here. I hope that they will be helpful tools. Remember, take what works, leave what doesn't, retrofit the things that you need to tweak for your own personal journey. So I want to tell you a little bit about my own struggle with depression. Now, I'm not going to do a deep dive into the specific trauma points or trigger points. I just want to give you a quick overview so that maybe you can say, oh my gosh, yeah, I've experienced that. I feel seen and I feel heard by you sharing your own story. And that's always my hope. That is always my hope. So I have struggled on and off with depression since I was in high school. In high school, it was pretty intense. I struggled a lot with self-harming thoughts. I never had like really hardcore official plans. Honestly, that's part of my faith journey. It's honestly a part of my faith story that, I really felt God speaking to me in a particular moment where I did have a plan and I wasn't sure if I was going to follow through or not. And I really felt God speaking to me in that moment. So in high school, it was very difficult for me. And depression was something that I hid. I felt really embarrassed by. Having grown up in a faith community, a lot of the verbiage around depression was kind of like, why would you be depressed if you believe in God? Like, if you really love Jesus, you really wouldn't have depression. And so I continued to hide and hide and hide and hide and push it down, because the truth was my life was pretty good. Sure, I had some trauma. Sure, I had some family stuff that was very difficult for me at that age. But the truth of the matter was, I looked at my life and I could be grateful for the things that I had. I could be grateful for the people in my life. And so I had this war within me of, I shouldn't be struggling with depression. And because I shouldn't be struggling with it, I'm going to push it down. Now, it wasn't until maybe my senior year when I was feeling a lot more anxiety about going to college and different things like that, dealing with some family issues, that my mom got me into therapy. Thank goodness my mom has always been a big supporter of counseling and mental health and making sure that we are healthy and getting to a place of health. So I was in therapy. That really helped. I also had another bout of pretty extreme depression and anxiety after a head injury in college. So I was back in therapy there. I had to relearn how to manage my anxiety because I had hit my head, and so my fight or flight response was totally out of whack, and I would have major panic attacks and pass out. Just a lot of fun things. So I did another round of therapy during that time, and that was super, super helpful. Eventually, I got married, and we were working in a church when we first got married around that time, and we actually, unfortunately, experienced a lot of intense spiritual abuse. After this particular time in my life, that was probably one of the most intense experiences of depression, because my faith is really, really important to me. So to be so deeply hurt by my own faith community, it was a very, very heavy betrayal that took many, 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 many years to work through. And I found new levels of healing. I found new ways of grounding techniques. I learned new ways to move through depression, anxiety, and it was great. It was really, really great. And like I said, that brings us to about 2 months ago, where I had some things happen in my life that really kind of just triggered another pretty intense wave of depression. And so I was able to get help. I had a free month of BetterHelp. That was really great. And so I'm still in therapy, working through some of these new things. And that's kind of the short history of my struggle with depression. So it's been in and out. There have been times where I have been really, really low, and there have been times I've been really, really high. But I think in this season of my life, as I hit my 30s, was kind of the first season of my life where I felt like my emotions kind of settled. And even when I hit waves of depression or anxiety, I'm able to pull on those grounding techniques. I'm able to come back and just have a healthier way to move through those seasons of hardship or darkness. That's my background and my personal struggle with depression. Hopefully that's helpful for you. If there's anything in there that you have questions about or you'd like to know a little bit more about, I'm usually an open book, so feel free to drop it in the comments or DM me. Personally, I'd love to talk about it. Now let's move into the section that I'm really excited to share with you. Here are 7 different things to stay creative when you're depressed. These are things that I am currently doing and have been doing over the last 2 months, and I have really seen a lot of progress. I've seen a lot of success, and I've seen a lot of just a very healthy fulfillment in pursuing these activities when I am also struggling with depression. The first way to stay creative when you are depressed is to get help. First of all, you need help. I tried for a long time to overcome my depression without any help, and the truth is that never worked. It never worked in the end. I understand that budgets are tight right now. We are all experiencing some intensity in our budgets, or if you're not, congratulations. But for the rest of us, things are tight. I was not able to afford therapy, but you know what? I got creative and I checked out my email, and I actually had a free month of BetterHelp. So I was able to hop on BetterHelp and find a really amazing therapist in my area that I felt like just really synced well with me. And so I started therapy for the first month. Now I I didn't have money for the second month, but I had somebody who was kind enough to pay for that second month. So I'm finishing up my second month, and I'm praying and believing that I'll get a third month covered, because I want to continue. But regardless of if you can get professional help or not, I think it's really, really important that you find a safe place that you can be honest, open and honest about your struggle with depression, anxiety, perhaps self-harming thoughts. Just have somebody there who can really listen and bear that burden with you. This is super important. I have tried this by myself, and I have tried this with help, and I guarantee you it is healthier every time to do it with help. Not only is that healthier, but I found that I actually move out of that particular wave of depression a lot faster when I'm leaning on my friends, my family, or in this particular case, also a professional to help me work through some of the things that I'm struggling with. So again, the first one, get help. If it's not professional, if it needs to be personal, that's fine. Just make sure that it is a safe place of somebody who you can share that burden with. The second thing that you can do to stay creative while you are depressed is to implement some sort of structure or predictable pattern. Now, I know as creatives, a lot of times we don't like to have schedules. We don't like things in place. We like to be free birds. But let me tell you something. If you need structure as a creative on your best day, when you are depressed, structure is your friend. I have found so much more help in implementing some predictable patterns in my life and having some structures in my life when I'm depressed. It really helps me function. Because here's the thing, your energy is low. Your capacity is already lower than it usually is when you are experiencing depression. By having some structure in place, some predictable patterns in place, now you're not spending that limited energy, any of that limited energy, trying to figure out, things like, when am I going to wake up? Where am I going to go? What is my schedule going to look like on the day to day? You're not spending time on that. You're taking the guesswork out of it. You have things that are going to happen every day, things that will help you move forward so that you can keep functioning when you have such a low capacity. So recap, in order to stay creative when you're depressed, second thing you should consider is to implement some kind of simple structure and predictable patterns. The third way to stay creative when you're depressed is to prioritize the projects that bring you joy. Here's the thing, we all have to do hard things, and moving through a wave of depression is already a really hard thing. You need to prioritize the projects that are going to bring you joy. Yes, there will be time to come back to the nitty-gritty, to the stuff that is harder and maybe boring and a little bit more mundane, the things that might be very difficult and come with a higher amount of resistance. There's always going to be time to come back to that. So when you're depressed, try to prioritize the projects that are going to bring you the most joy, the projects that have a little less resistance to pursue. In this particular wave of depression, I tried to find the projects that brought me a lot of peace and purpose and fulfillment to keep me in a positive headspace and to help me maintain some motivation moving forward. So to recap, the third way to stay creative when you're depressed is to prioritize the projects that bring you joy. The fourth way to stay creative when you're depressed is to release your expectations. We all have expectations, and not all expectations are bad, but when you're depressed, it's really important to kind of release those things. I'm not saying release all expectations whatsoever so that you don't get out of bed and you give up everything altogether. I'm not saying that, but I think you know what I mean. If you've experienced depression, then you 100% understand what it feels like when you have these expectations for yourself and you can't meet them because you have a lower capacity. It just breeds more shame. And then that shame compiles on top of each other. And honestly, it just makes you feel more depressed. It works against you. So I think during this time when you're depressed, one of the ways to stay creative is by releasing those expectations. Just giving into the joy and the peace and the pure enjoyment of going through the process of your creative journey, whatever that might look like for you. It's always going to be easy to tell yourself, I should be doing this. I should be able to do this. Those are always easy expectations to put on yourself, but they're not always the healthiest. When you're healthy, they're not always the best. So when you're depressed, adding undue, unrealistic expectations to yourself is only going to make the depression worse, and it's going to set you back, and it's really going to erode at your creativity. So, the fourth way to stay creative when you are depressed is to release those expectations. Similarly, the fifth way to stay creative when you're depressed is to adjust your goals, make them smaller. I encourage you to maybe cut those goals in half or by fourths. Whatever it looks like to you, you need to take the goals that you currently have and maybe adjust them. The truth is, when you hit depression, your capacity is severely diminished. The goals that you had 3 months ago may no longer be realistic in this particular moment of reduced capacity. Instead of giving up on your goals altogether, look at making them a little bit smaller. So maybe instead of needing to travel a mile down the road on your goals, maybe say, I need to go a quarter of a mile. That's my goal now. It doesn't mean you're stopping. It doesn't mean you're not still moving forward, but perhaps you need to bring the goal a little closer for now. You can always readjust later. I'll give you a real life example. I have really been enjoying creating YouTube videos, and I was really only about 2 to 3 months in to starting my YouTube channel when I hit this severe wave of depression. I had made a commitment to myself that I wanted to put out 4 videos a month on YouTube. But the truth is, as soon as I hit that wave of depression, I knew that most likely that was not going to be a goal I could achieve at the moment. I knew I had reduced capacity, and I knew I needed to put my best energy into staying healthy, getting healthy, changing mindsets, and moving out of this particular wave of depression. So instead of doing 4 videos a month, I reduced to 1 video a month. Now, it was sad for me. I didn't want to have to reduce my goal, but I could have given up entirely, or I can still keep moving forward, just severely cut the standards I'm setting for myself. This is a great time for you to perhaps make those deadlines a little further out for yourself. Give yourself a little extra time. Again, remember, if you have to adjust your goals, you can always adjust them later. This isn't forever. This doesn't mean that you are going to fall so far behind that you're never going to be able to catch up to where maybe you want to be. You can always come back. There's always grace and ability to shift and change as your capacity shifts and changes. So the fifth way to stay creative when you're depressed is to readjust your goals, specifically to make them smaller. The sixth way to stay creative when you're depressed is to revisit your why. Now, we all have a deep why, a reason why we pursue the things that we pursue, a reason why we're passionate about the things that we're passionate about. If you feel like you don't have a really great why, a purpose behind what you're doing, I have a really great exercise called 7 Layers Deep. I'll link it down below. It's free, and everybody who has participated in this exercise has found it really meaningful. So I encourage you to do that to get a connection to some kind of deep why. What is driving you? What is driving your projects? What's driving your creative desires? You need to know that. And when you are depressed, this is the best time to dig down deep and reconnect with that. What is the vision for yourself? What is the vision that you see of your life? Now remember, take that into account with your reduced capacity. If you're dreaming about being a millionaire and having a yacht on a Greek Isle when you're depressed, sometimes that's too big of a dream. Maybe you need to find a smaller dream. Maybe your dream is, I'd like to get up and put makeup on every day of the week. If that's something that's important to you, if that's something that you enjoy, and maybe when you're depressed, that's, personal hygiene is something that goes out the window. Maybe a closer dream for you right now is, I would like to keep up on my personal hygiene, get dressed in a nice outfit every day. this week, or whatever it might be for you. You figure it out. But whatever the case may be, we need to get back in touch with your vision, with your why, the thing that is driving you. You need to connect with that, because that's going to serve as an anchor point as you work your way out of depression. So again, 6th way to stay creative when you're depressed is to reconnect with your why. And finally, the 7th way to stay creative when you're depressed is to celebrate every small victory. Now, if you have experienced depression before, then you understand that sometimes getting out of bed is a big deal. And that needs to be celebrated as if it's the biggest thing you've ever done. You need to be celebrating every little win. Now, this is a message that I tell people, especially creatives, even when you're not depressed. So when you're depressed, you need to celebrate it even more. Hey, you woke up, congratulations. You brushed your teeth, congratulations. Guess what? You took a shower. Go get yourself a pumpkin spice latte if that's the thing you're into. You need to be celebrating every little win. If you only crossed off one task that day, that needs to be a celebration, because that means that you're not giving up. That means that you are valuing your life enough to continue to move forward, even if it's at a turtle's pace, even if it's one tiny step at a time. You are doing the hard work. You are choosing not to give up, not to give in to those dark lies and those dark thoughts. It's really, really important that you find a way to celebrate all the little things. It doesn't have to be crazy. You don't have to do anything tremendous. Remember, we're working on a reduced capacity. All I mean is recognizing all the little steps, all the little things that you are doing to invest in yourself, to invest in your mental health, and to invest in that soul care. So, final and last way to stay creative when you're depressed is to celebrate every small victory and win. So that's all I have for you today. I really, really hope that this is helpful for you. Again, take what works for you, leave what doesn't, retrofit anything that you need to your own struggle and your own journey out of depression. Friend, I know it's hard. I've been there. In fact, I'm still there. I'm in recovery. I'm moving out of it. And yes, I'm doing better, but I know how hard it is to want to create, but to feel such a reduced capacity because you're depressed. Because depression tells you that you don't matter. And depression tells you that what you're pursuing and what you're going after doesn't have value. But that's not true. It's just not true. And if you are someone of faith like myself, then we know that God gave us these visions. God gave us the things that are in our heart, these callings, these pulls for a reason, to bring light into the world, to help others. As we create, we share that same message of hope and of peace and of goodness. And so I want to share that with you again. If you are struggling with depression, if it's super, super severe and you are struggling with self-harming thoughts, get help right away. There's suicide hotline. You need help right away. Do not hesitate. Do not let shame tell you that you can't do it and that you're not valuable. Reach out for help. Don't be ashamed. Don't be ashamed. It's okay to need help. We all need help. We all need help. I need help. I still am leaning on other people as I'm moving through this process this time around. So friend, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Was this helpful? Are there any ways that you stay creative when you're depressed? Or are there some ways that have been helpful for you? I'd love you to drop it in the comments, because let's help each other out. Let's try to find a way to communally build each other up in dark times. Until next time, I will see you soon. Bye.